Hey, good evening, everybody out there on the internet, on Facebook and YouTube. I'm Chris from the Common Grounds podcast. Tonight, live from the Woodlands, Texas. Tonight, we are going to be talking to my buddy Anthony Compofelice, otherwise known as the Subtle Foodie. So stay tuned. We've got a great show coming. Stick around. All right. Good evening, Anthony. Welcome to the show. How are you doing tonight?
Hey, Chris. Good evening, and thanks for having me.
Slightly awkward since I've just been talking to you for 5-15 minutes and I say hi.
Yeah.
But, well, thanks for coming on. I know it's been a kind of hectic, interesting time lately with everything going on. But, you know, we scheduled this out. I think I talked to you back in January when I started this idea, when I started the Common Grounds podcast, and wanted to get you on because I'd listened to your podcast with Tomball Press. Shout out to the guys or the team over there at Tomball Press. I'd listened to your podcast there. I was like, well, that's really interesting because I'd seen you on the Facebook groups. I'd seen you on Instagram, and you really don't get anybody's backstory from Facebook. Unless you,
especially not mine.
It doesn't, you go your Subtle Foodie page on Instagram and you get really, really good food pictures, really natural, well thought out pictures of food. And you don't get the backstory. You're like, man, this guy is eating 7 meals a day. How does he do it? So that's one thing I want to talk about. But
yeah.
Anthony, if you will, introduce yourself to the audience out there. Tell us a little bit about where you're from and how you got into being a Instagram food blogger.
Yeah.
That's the proper term?
Yeah. I mean, there's a lot of terms that get thrown around, and I really don't like any of them. But thanks. My name's Anthony Compofelice, aka Subtle Foodie. I live in the Woodlands, so for those of you not here, that's north of Houston. It's kind of this big suburby kind of area of Houston. I've been here for quite a long time. I actually grew up here and then spent 10 years in Colorado for college and work before coming back to the Woodlands. And so live here with my wife and my 2 kids. And the food thing got started. Yeah, I want to say 2007, 2008. I probably got an Instagram account under my own name and posted pictures of my dog in my house and like everybody else does when they don't know what they're doing with it. But I've always had a big passion for food. And I was living downtown. My wife and I were living down and working downtown, and we'd go to all these cool places, and the food taking picture community had just gotten started at that time. I think it was just coming into its own. I hate calling them like food influencers or food bloggers. I'm not a writer. I'm a really terrible writer. I mentioned that on the Tomball Press podcast. So I actually do have a website. It has virtually nothing on it. But what I do have is this Instagram account, and I've got, I guess, a knack for taking pictures of food in a very natural way. And so I think I started doing that. And when I realized that I'm getting more followers and getting traction and talking to more restaurants and chefs and things like that, I realized I wanted to do something a little bit more with it. So I basically changed the name. And as I was thinking about, well, what do I want to call myself, or what, I didn't want to use my name because I knew my name would be tied to that. And if I ever wanted to change it, it would be tough. But I had an issue at the time with, I'll call them food influencers, right? And you know who they are because they're at restaurants and they get served and they get their dish and they take it outside and they put it on the curb or they put it on the table or they put it in the right light or they do something or they put it in front of them or they drop it or they do whatever. I couldn't get my head around that. That always seemed to me to be making the food about them versus making the food about the food and the creator. So I really wanted to focus on the people who create the food and the food itself. And when I go to a restaurant, I go in and I have now a larger camera, but I usually just use my iPhone and I take a picture and I snap the photo and I maybe get 2 or 3 and then I'm done and that's it. And then I enjoy the meal because that's what we're really there for. We're there to enjoy what the creators, those chefs, those restaurants, those staffs have created. And that's what I want to do. So I wanted to be a little bit more subtle about it. And that's where the name came from.
That's cool.
That's literally where the name came from. And I have a lot of friends who do the whole food influencer thing, and I love them to death, and I won't begrudge anybody for doing that. It's just not my style. That's not what I wanted to put out there. Very, very rarely will you see a picture of me on my Instagram page. It's in fact, if I probably went back and looked at the last 100, there probably isn't even one on there. So I just really try and concentrate on the food and the people who are creating the food, the chefs and the restaurateurs.
Sorry, I have my mic muted. My fan club is outside the door right now. That's what you get when you have a home office. Which
we're all working from home right now.
Everybody's working from home, and we're going to talk about that here in a little bit when we get to that point. So when you made the transition from just kind of doing it as a hobby, where were you in, let's say, the follower area?
I was probably in 750 to under 1,000. I guarantee it was under 1,000. Yeah. And it was primarily friends and family and Facebook friends and restaurants and people like that. And then once I made the transition, there's a whole lot of things you can do to gain organic followers. And I use the term organic versus the term bought, right? Because you could go out and buy likes and buy followers and stuff. But what really sets it apart, and you can really tell, are the engagement rates on posts. So if you've got a 0.5% engagement rate and you've got 30,000 followers, you know that those are all fake followers. Yeah. So I really try and engage with all the people I do follow and the people who follow me as much as I can, so that I can, because I want to learn. I travel a lot. I think last year I went about 120,000 miles, and everywhere I go, I try to talk to somebody local so I can find where are the places that I need to go to now to see this cool food that this town has to offer, whatever this town is. I really try and go seek those out and stay away from the kind of the touristy places, although we all like touristy places. I do try and find a bunch of local places to go to enjoy, to really learn more about what they're doing in that community.
We went to, just about a year ago, we went to New York City, and that was my first trip ever to New York City. And so I got on my phone. My wife was working. She was talking. She was down and giving a speech down at Wall Street, doing some different things. And so during the day, all I had was like scrolling. Okay, hey, I want to go there. I want to go there when she gets done. I want to go do this. I want to do that. And we ended up finding a really good pizza place that was just a hole in the wall. That was awesome. That there was no line, and it was in, there was a placard outside that said, top pizza in New York City this year, and it was really, really good. It was really good pizza. But
I think all the pizza places in New York have that same placard.
Oh yeah. And they had, there's the stars on the wall that were in there that had eaten there with the pictures. Nice. But my favorite place that we ate the whole time was this Chinese noodle restaurant where the noodles were like 7.5 feet long in a bowl. Yeah. And you had no room, and we were sitting on a little stool, and the shelf was right here that you were eating the bowl of noodles on. And I'm just going to town, and I look over, and my wife is just staring at me. She is not into it that at all. And she was a good sport, and she had her noodles. She ate as much of it as she wanted. She handed it over to me, and I finished that 7 feet of noodles off as well. But I love to go out and find the hole in the wall.
Yeah.
That is, if you pull up and you don't look like anybody else there.
Yeah. Yeah.
you know you're probably at the right spot when you're talking about a hole in the wall ethnic food
Yeah.
spot.
And there's so many of them. I mean, we're so lucky here in Houston to have this food culture that is just unbelievable. And frankly, I think aside from a place like New York, is kind of unparalleled in its variety. There aren't. I mean, you could list off every kind of cuisine or cultural or ethnic food, and you can probably find it here. We obviously have a huge Asian population, whether, Chinatown, Koreatown, that whole area out west. Obviously a huge Mexican population, but you get like Italian and Hawaiian and just all sorts of things that you just wouldn't think of, but we've got them all here. And it takes effort, I think, to find and help support those small restaurants, those small businesses, but they're here. And so I do try and seek those out when I can. In fact, I do a video series, a video series of locally owned restaurants in the Woodlands. And I think we've done about 30 of these, and we'll go in and we'll talk to the owners and, learn their story about why you brought this little place. And I got to say, probably like half of them are the holes in the wall.
Yeah.
My absolute favorite Tex-Mex in Houston it's nothing fancy. It's hole in the wall, but it's Rita's Cantina out on 249. And it's run by this husband and wife, Judy and Javier, and they came from California. He's a professionally trained chef and wanted to come out here and start a Mexican restaurant. And it's the Tex-Mex classics, right? It's everything you would expect, tacos and enchiladas and fajitas and things like that. But they do them so well, and they put so much care into it. And you can really, really tell when you go how much care they put into it. And even though it's a 30-minute drive for me, I'll still go over and eat there. And it's super hole in the wall, kind of a rundown shopping center, but it's fantastic. And the people are great. And sitting there listening to them is awesome. It just makes the food that much better.
So did they come to Texas and learn Tex-Mex?
No, they had family here, but they were out in California. But
right.
Javier, he's a professionally trained chef.
Yeah.
And I mean, he's doing beef fajitas that are like 3-day marinated or something like that.
Wow.
And they're not like anything you would get at Papacitos or Guadalajara or anything like that. They're I don't know, they're just fantastic. They're doing handmade corn tortillas that taste like flour tortillas. They're just so good. And just everything there is really good because it's all scratch made, and they just put a lot of care into it. They're not concerned about getting the next table in. They're not concerned with turning the covers. They're concerned with how good the quality of the food is.
That's awesome. You're going to have to send me a list of links, and I'll post them in the comments for everybody after the show's over, and,
Sure.
and put it on a podcast so people can see what we're talking about. Did you ever get any have you ever taken any professional food classes, like any charcuterie classes or butchering classes?
So I've done a couple of different things. My wife and I took a Brazilian street food class at the Cordon Bleu in Austin before it closed. That's kind of one thing. It's just, I like being in the kitchen. So I cook myself. I do a lot of barbecue. If you've ever seen me, when I'm driven somewhere, my license plate is actually I Heart Barbecue on my Jeep. I do a whole bunch of barbecue events. I help organize the Houston Barbecue Festival. I'm on the rodeo barbecue committee and things like that. And one of the things that got me started in that was at A&M University, they started a barbecue summer camp. And it's done by Jeff Sable and the guys there at the Meat Science Center, Rosenthal Meat Science Center. And they just had this idea that as barbecue was getting so much bigger in Texas, between Franklin's and all the places in Austin and then all the places here, they wanted to teach people about barbecue. And these guys knew barbecue. I mean, you take this summer, they call it a summer camp, but it's basically a long weekend at the Rosenthal Meat Science Center at A&M. And there is a slaughterhouse and meat processing facility right there. and they teach you everything from start to finish about meat and where it comes from and how it's processed, different ways to smoke it, all this different stuff. And so I got started with that when they first started that, and I ended up helping them out a little bit for a few years. And now it's to the point where they run a lottery for the opportunity to get a ticket to go to this class because it is sold out in minutes once they release the tickets.
That's awesome.
And they actually split it up. So now they do a barbecue summer camp and a brisket camp, which is just about brisket over a weekend during the winter. So I've done different things like that, but alternatively, I've also worked with a whole bunch of chefs around town and learned from them, spent time in kitchens and just kind of learned through osmosis of, the process. I don't think anybody really gets, unless you're in the industry, you don't really get when you go into a restaurant and you sit down, what went into that dish. Whether it's a franchise chain or whether it's a one-off place like Rita's or someplace like Wheel Kitchen where Thelma's doing her thing, it's the passion and the thought that has to come first, and the creativity and the preparation that has to come after that to get that thing just on a plate. And then we go in as customers and have these expectations that are so high, and if one little thing is wrong, you jump to Yelp and give them a bad review. But I don't think people understand the amount of stuff that goes before all of that. And it's a little hard for me to reconcile. I don't like. I'm not a big fan of Yelp or those kinds of things. I know the reviews can help these restaurants, but it's too easy to take advantage of some of those systems. I think both those systems taking advantage of the restaurateurs and vice versa.
Yeah, I'm not a big fan of Yelp at all.
Yeah,
either.
I mean, they've got there's we could go on and on about that, but there's I think plenty of documented evidence about the less than favorable or shady business tactics on some of those things.
Yeah, you can, if you got the money, you can have the ratings. That's for sure.
Yeah, that's right.
When it comes to some companies out there, I'm not going to name anyone, but anyway, that's cool. That's have you taken the brisket weekend?
I've done. I've done. I've done all of them, and it really got me further into barbecue. I mean, when I was first doing it, I worked for Centerpoint, and they did a company cook-off, and somebody in the related department got me involved with that and said, "Hey, do you want to come out and help?" And then that got into this barbecue summer camp, and most recently, I bought a 250-gallon custom-built Moberg smoker on a trailer. So and that was probably 2008 or 9 when that first started. And now we're to the point where I've got several smokers in the backyard. As we talked about earlier, I just took a pork butt off for pulled pork potatoes tonight for dinner. So it's become a bit of an obsession that kind of ebbs and flows with other food.
It's an interesting, barbecue is so, one, regional, and two, is such an art form, and you will get some die-hard people that if you do anything that they don't think that you're supposed to do.
Yeah, right.
I have a pellet grill, and right now, if I had a bunch of subscribers, I would probably lose people over it. But you know what? I can have a brisket on Tuesday afternoon. It is just like I can smoke a pretty good brisket on Tuesday and not spend most of the day. What's my fire temp? Do I need wood? What's my fire temp? What do I need to do? I can set it and go back out in 4 hours and be like, yep, I'm good on pellets.
Yeah.
And it turns out a good product. But man, you get some people that would disown you.
There are those people, and I'm one of those people. I love regional barbecue, meaning I love all the regions of barbecue. I'm a huge fan of Central Texas barbecue. I think Louis Mueller barbecue, which is Wayne Mueller, who's running it. He's the third generation now running that place. I mean, they call this place the Cathedral of Smoke for a reason. If you've ever been there, it is kind of the gold standard for Central Texas barbecue. But I love whole hog from the Carolinas.
Mm-hmm.
And I, love stuff from St. Louis. And my very first experience with barbecue when I was a child was in California, of all places. And I had baby back ribs at this restaurant called Love's, which is gone now, but it was a kind of a barbecue chain, but they were on the sweeter side and they were sauced and they were fantastic. And they fell off the bone. You could just pull the bone right out. And this was when I was probably 5 or 6 years old. And so I've had every kind of barbecue and I love them all. There's just so much variety that there's something that somebody always will like. I made the pork butt I made today was injected with Coke and pickle juice. And that's not a Central Texas thing, nor is pork. But it tasted fantastic and it was great. And, I'll do beef ribs and brisket just like everybody else with just salt and pepper, because that's the only thing that better be on brisket is salt and pepper. But I love it all. And, I'm a big advocate of learning about things. So the barbecue summer camp was great to teach me how barbecue works. And then dealing with a whole bunch of different barbecue people over the years, learning from them, why does a rotisserie barbecue, or why does a rotisserie smoker work this way? And why does a pellet grill work this way? Or why does an offset work the other way? So I've always been one for the offsets because that's what I learned on. That's kind of what I first had. But I just got from Mark Lambert, who's this huge barbecue guy, one of his, it's like a mini vault. If you've ever seen the Pitmaker vaults, it's only about 2.5 feet tall, or maybe 3 feet tall, and about 2 feet wide. And it's small. And boy, I cooked from 8 o'clock this morning and changed the charcoal twice, and it stayed at 250 degrees the entire time.
That's awesome.
And there's something to be said for that when you just want to cook dinner.
Yeah. It's a huge convenience whenever you're talking about something that you don't have to sit there and babysit.
Right.
It turns out good food. That really turns out good food. I can fit.
And when the time is right, I will sit and babysit my offset Moberg all day long. Sit there with a beer and the temperature and watch the fire and put the wood in and stuff. And I enjoy the hell out of that. But sometimes you just got to get dinner done by a certain time.
Yep. That way you can eat it for a couple days and it's good.
Yeah, that's right.
Yeah. That's when you're out working with these chefs and coordinating with them, do you get into menu development at all, or I don't know if that's the proper term for it. Do you help with coming up with dishes? Like
I think the mark of a great chef is someone who always is transitioning and always changing, right? So there's a couple that I work with that I'll get calls every once in a while saying, "Hey, we're trying something new. Can you come try this?" And it's not that I'm a professional. It's not that I'm trained to do it. I'm just a person, and because of my relationship with that person, I may be able to just provide honest feedback that somebody else may not be, because I'm pretty honest.
Yeah.
I've dealt with a lot of people, and I'll tell them if I don't think it's good, but I'll tell them why. It's why I don't think it's good, and it's usually not that it isn't executed right. It's normally that it's just nuanced in a way that I didn't find enjoyable, and whether or not that helps them or not, or makes them change their opinion on the dish, that remains to be seen. But there's been a few that I've worked through some interesting menu items and gotten to taste some things that are pretty amazing before they went out.
So one of the ones that you work with a lot is one of my favorite restaurants here. So Tris, and before that, the kitchen's. I could run to the kitchen if I wanted to. I mean, it's just down the street from the house. And so we used to go there all the time when we were eating out a little bit more. And back in the day, we went there because it was just good food, and you knew you were going to be able to get something. And then it was Hubble Hudson Kitchen transition or Hubble Hudson transition to Tris. Right? But the pickles are still delicious. The pickles are amazing, and the kimchi is outstanding. Austin does a great job, and the kimchi burger that they just put on the menu. I wanted to.
Okay, so
tell us about that, because I know you had a little bit to do with that one?
Well, I didn't have a lot to do with it. Well, a little bit. Okay. So Austin is a great friend of mine. He's probably my best friend, I would think. And he does some amazing stuff. For as young as he is, running that kitchen, running the kitchen he has at Tris, as well as the kitchen, right? The fast casual kind of restaurant. He puts out some amazing stuff because he also runs Curate, right? Which is that kind of restaurant within a restaurant concept, which if you've never had it's pricey. It's 8 courses that turns into 12, and it's amazing. It's really an experience. But so through some Facebook groups and Facebook dealings, I got to know Kim Bellini, who's kind of a food writer in her hobby time as well. And she had said that I posted one of the burgers, and she said that she orders that same burger, but without the bacon jam, and adds the kimchi that Austin makes. It's a vegetarian kimchi, so everybody can eat it. And I said, oh, that's really a good idea. I said, I'd love to try that. So her and I met one day, and we went to Tris, and we sat there and ordered this burger with this kimchi on it, and it was fantastic. And we both sat there and told Austin that it really needs to go on the menu because it was fantastic. I still don't like the fact that it's on an English muffin. And I told him that in the beginning, way back when he was developing this burger on an English muffin. I said, I just don't like burgers on English muffins, but he did it anyway because it was just a personal preference.
Yeah.
I don't happen to like burgers on English muffins, but I'll still eat it because it was a really good burger. It's just executed really well.
Yeah, I definitely have to check that one out when I get back there. I'm a big fan. So I do my own kimchi.
Oh, okay.
I love doing the fermented stuff. I love doing my own charcuterie when I can get the time to do it. And it's just always amazing what he puts out. And the fact that, sometimes you'll see him, he's always in the dining room if he's able to.
Always,
yeah. And he's always engaging with customers. He does a really fantastic job there. And I'll put a link in the comments. And I'll put a link on the comments for the podcasters that listen to it later. And Kim is actually one of my subscribers to our Roaster's Choice program.
Oh, nice.
On the website. So we send her coffee every month. She gets some of our coffee. So well, let's move into some current events. So we just had the rodeo canceled.
Yeah.
And before that, was the cook-off finished? Had the cook-off part?
No, so it hadn't finished. So we got down. Because I'm on the committee, I got down there on Monday, whatever that Monday was, before the weekend of the cook-off, and this coronavirus stuff was going on, but it hadn't gotten to the point where it is now. There were no cases in Houston or anything like that. People were talking about it. Frankly, that got overshadowed fairly quickly with the water issue that happened. There's a huge water main break and shut off water to the city, so nobody really cared. So all of that got done. The cook-off was done, and the rodeo had started already before they had shut it down. So all of that was done, and I think it was on people's mind, but there was no indication anywhere of
where we would be at now.
Social distancing and all this other kind of thing.
Yeah. What was the best thing that you ate at the cook-off? Top tie.
So let me put it this way. My responsibility there is with teams. I'm what's called a contestant supervisor. So I manage a group of teams, and I think there's about 40 or 50 of us that manage the 400 some odd teams or 280 teams that are out there. My job is to manage the champions teams. So it's the previous winner of the rodeo barbecue, and then all of the winners of the contest where we have reciprocity. So the American Royal, the Jack Daniels, Austin, San Antonio, all of those guys get invited to come. So I had 5 teams there that were all previous champions, grand champions of other contests. So all of the stuff I tasted was really good. The one that I probably thought was the best, probably the best bite I had was the pork ribs turn-in that were from Operation Barbecue Relief. And they were the previous year's winner. So if you've never heard of these guys, you should really go check them out. They go to disaster areas and cook barbecue for everybody. It's a volunteer organization, and they were invited to the rodeo cook-off 3 years ago now, and I was their contestant supervisor, and it was their first year, and got to learn about kind of what they do and how they move around, and literally they go to just anywhere there's just a disaster, they take their smokers and their trucks and their people, and they go and they just cook barbecue 7,000 meals a day. They did in Nashville a couple of weeks ago when the tornadoes went through. Really, really good guys. They came in and they actually did really well. They placed in kind of the top 10-ish kind of range. The next year they came back and they won grand champion.
Oh, wow.
Which was amazing. And so when they win grand champion, they go to this champions corner, and they were my team again. So I had them the first year, not the second year, but then I had them the third year again. And they actually finished as a reserve grand champion, which is essentially second place this year. So absolutely amazing. Their food is incredible.
Where are they out of?
So all over the country. I'm not exactly sure where they're headquartered, but they have people spread out all over the country. And in fact, when they left the cook-off, they went straight to Nashville, because that's when those tornadoes happened.
Yeah.
And so they took all their crews and they went straight there to go cook for the people there who would, all these people lost everything, houses and lives destroyed, but they're there and they're cooking for all these people and all of the people who are there to provide support. So whether it's fire and police and medical, plus everybody else there that's there to help these people get back on their feet.
That's amazing. That's that they can do that and then compete at the level that they need to win championships.
Right. Yep. Yeah.
Because that's cooking for 7,000 people and cooking for a championship barbecue team or a cook-off competition is 2 totally different animals.
Yes.
in multiple different ways there.
Yeah.
That's awesome.
And I've always said that barbecue cook-off food, everybody wants to be a judge. I recommend you go and be a judge once and see how you like it, because most people don't want to repeatedly be a judge of barbecue. It's a very different experience than going to a restaurant and getting barbecue. You can't go into a barbecue cook-off and think you're getting corkscrew barbecue. It's not the way it works. It's still good, but it's good in a different way. Yeah. And I don't think people expect it.
It's awesome. I had a little glitch here, so bear with me for just a second, and I lost my list of questions for you.
Can we play the Jeopardy theme song?
Yeah, dude. Unfortunately, I can't. I can do video over us, but I can't do sounds. So let's switch gears a little bit and talk about Instagram, because Instagram for your casual person who's not into it, I don't think they understand the amount of work that goes into running an Instagram account. So let's talk about that for a minute, because one, you've said some stuff in your interview that helped me, and me and you talking on the phone that's helped me. So maybe there's somebody out there that's listening, maybe one of my roasters, maybe myself, can pick up a few hints on Instagram.
Yeah, I mean, it's a weird beast. It's very unusual. Like I said, I don't write, so Instagram is very picture based. You have to put a witty caption or something like that, but it doesn't have to be that substantial. So it's really focusing on the content, and the reality of my content when you go look at it. And if I sit here and I'm looking at mine, it's got a theme. And the theme is not a color, the theme is not a style, although some people do that. My theme is, what does the food look like in its most natural state? I don't do a lot of editing to the pictures or anything. But there's a lot of things you could do if you're trying to grow followers. The biggest thing you can do is what's called engagement. And that is, hey, there it is. Yeah. There's Austin's Burger right up top. I got posted today. That is the engagement, is interacting with the people you follow and the things that you want to see, right? That means liking, commenting on their posts, because that gets them to engage with you. That's what's called organic engagement. Recently, within the last year to 6 months, something like that, Instagram completely changed their algorithm. Every once in a while, they just flip it. And it went from being all about likes. They actually got rid of the likes. Some accounts, so I'm looking at yours right now, and you can actually see the likes on my account if you mouse over some of those.
Yeah.
Sometimes you can see them, sometimes you can't. They like got rid of that, and people were like freaking out. And now the engagement scores and where your picture shows up in different feeds is all about the comments and the saves. So you can actually, if you go into Instagram, there's a little bookmarky little button right there, and you can save a picture, and that's part of the engagement, which is kind of interesting. So you get to see all of that. Yeah, you can see the little bookmarky guy right there. Yeah. So that drives engagement, and that drives people to like your stuff, and then one of the big things, if you pull up one of those pictures, is what I call contextual hashtags. And so if you look on the right-hand side, you see a whole bunch of hashtags there, and there's a limit of 30, and you want them to be contextual to what you have posted, but you also want to be able to kind of flood other feeds as well, so you get good engagement when somebody goes and searches for those kinds of things. So you see a lot of those were kind of generic hashtags, and then a lot of them are very specific.
Right.
So if you look towards the bottom of that list, you see it says mole negro, which happens to be what that dish is from Cuchara. That's a very niche hashtag. And so if you go and search for that hashtag, because not a lot of people look at that, your picture is going to stay higher on that list. It's going to stay within that 9 grid right there that you're looking at longer. So it's going to get engaged with more. Even though it may not be a ton of people, more people are going to see it.
And we've got to find out where this one's from right here, because that looks
really good. That looks really good. I love mole. And Cuchara, by the way, has a fantastic one. Thanks to Eric Sandler, actually sent me over there. I asked him where I should go for lunch, and he said go there, and it was definitely worth it. But those hashtags are important. And you could do what everybody else does and post a hashtag that's food pics, hashtag food pics, but it's going to disappear from that list, and nobody's going to be able to engage with it. So it's techniques like that. But really, the key is engagement and interacting with the accounts that you want to interact with you, following those accounts, and commenting on their stuff, because it's all kind of a reciprocity deal, and that's how you gain followers. That's how I've gained the followers that I have, and nobody really worries about followers anymore. It's not a huge. I passed 16,000 the other day, and it wasn't as big of a deal as it used to be on a milestone like that, because the engagement rates are more important now. So now I start getting calls from brands and restaurants and things like that saying, hey, would you post about this? Would you come and try this? That's where you start to get that. If your engagement rates are higher, and that's what your goal is to interact with brands and restaurants, or brands and whatever your content is, that engagement is what those marketers are looking for. They want to see you and your followers interacting, because they know that if they send you a pound of coffee and you post about it, lots of people are going to see it, and that could turn into sales for them.
Yep, it's that top the top part of the sales funnel, man. It's just there's so much that goes into that. And every time I'm not in front of my command station here, I've got an earphone in and I'm listening to somebody else's podcast, and I'm trying to build my knowledge. And they're saying at this point it's anywhere between 22 and 31 interactions and touch points now before a consumer even makes it to a website.
Yeah. And 10 years ago, that was 5. That was probably
5. 5 to 7. Yeah. And it's just like, man, I've got to do, that's what I mean, the podcast and Instagram and Twitter, and just trying to get, because if I now show up in your feed 3 or 4, 5 or 6 times a week, okay, a month later, you're going to maybe be like, hey, what's this guy, Chris? What's this coffee thing that's going on? Yeah. And it's such a hard deal if you don't have the thousands and thousands and millions of dollars to spend on advertising is to build
you can build a following easily with keeping in mind a few things. One is the engagement, obviously. 2 is consistency in posts. So there's a ton of tools out there now. I use a cool tool called Tailwind that allows me to schedule Instagram posts. Mm-hmm. So basically if I look at my camera right now, there's about 26,000 pictures. About 10% of those are my family. And about 90% of those are food. And so I can take those pictures, I can upload them into Tailwind, I can basically do everything that is the post, including tagging people and hashtags and all sorts of other things, and then schedule them out over a period of as long as I want, really.
Right.
I usually schedule a few days ahead, particularly if there's something going on, or if there are particular kind of food days, it's National Pancake Day or, something like that. I'll schedule out stuff like that. But I really try and keep it a little bit more natural because I want my Instagram stories to tie with the posts. So the stories are kind of live and kind of where you are now, although you can hold them for later. And so you kind of want the post to be able to tie to that, although I haven't been following that lately. I've been posting one thing and from days ago and then stories from current. So there's lots of different things you can do, but I think engagement and consistency are probably the 2 biggest.
Yeah, it's definitely a beast. I was talking to another podcaster on engagement and driving stuff. They're like, well, we're fixing to set up our Instagram content. We haven't gained any followers and we don't know what we're doing. And like, well, what are your posts look like? Well, we really don't post.
Well, there's a consistency.
Yeah. It's definitely a whole different animal than Facebook or
and there's so many tools that you got to utilize, and you got to learn how to use them. But like I said, this one I use, Tailwind, allows me to simultaneously post to Instagram, being the prime. Facebook gets posted at the same time to my page there, and then my Twitter account gets posted automatically as well. And I use another tool for that. So I get to do one action that does 3 posts.
Right.
And it just makes it so I have to think about it less.
Yeah, it's definitely an awesome tool. I've got it pulled up in here. I was actually I pull it up, and then I see one of the podcasts I always listen to is the Social Media Examiner podcast, and they've got their little brand on the Tailwind page. So I'm definitely going to have to look into downloading that. So let's talk about, and you mentioned it a little bit. Let's talk about food influencers. Mm-hmm. And how you feel about different aspects of that, if you want.
Yeah, no, I talk about everything, and people don't like me for that, but that's okay. Look, everybody's got their own style. I learned a ton from a Las Vegas food blogger. Her Instagram handle is happytummy_702. I think I mentioned her on the Tomball Press podcast as well. Whatever she does it right. And she is that person that is out there. I mean, I don't know how she does it because I think she has a real job too. She is at every food event. She's posting stories. She's posting content. She's doing a YouTube channel. She does all sorts of stuff, and it's fantastic. And it's the opposite of what I've tried to be like in terms of being the subtle influencer, taking this stance of it's not about me. I don't need to be in the picture. I'm trying to present the food. She's doing it a completely different way, but it works, and it works really well because it's executed really well. There are that's the one side of it, right? Everybody's got their own style, but there are some that I see, and they're all over. And there's been like memes posted about it where this person will go into an ice cream shop and she'll order this giant ice cream cone and take the picture of it and literally just throw the thing away. And I find that, aside from being wasteful, I just find that annoying. That's what I was trying to get away from. That's why I don't want to be in these pictures. It's not about me, it's about the food. They're making it about them, and that's their method. But everybody's got their own method. Everybody's got their own way of interacting with whatever their following is. I pick my way. That person will pick their way. And, I think we all gotta, at this point, we all gotta learn to live together, right?
Yeah, it's definitely. And they're back at my door, apparently. Can you hear them?
That just makes it more real.
It just makes it more real, right?
You're not some, high and mighty podcast producer.
I've got my green screen here blocking the toys that are on my old couch and in the office that I
need to get one of those. I just have a white one.
It's a lot of fun. You can do a lot of cool stuff with it. We could put your pictures up there if we really wanted to. It's pretty cool. But I've ran into it a couple times so far, just with the coffee on Roasters Marketplace. I've had members of certain coffee groups on Facebook. One girl approached me. She's like, "Hey, can you send me some samples?" I was like, "No. Here's the link to the website, and here's the ones that have free samples, or not free samples, but here's sample packs. And you know what? If you use this code, you can order it, and I'll give you free shipping. I'll cover your shipping for you." She's like, "Well, no, I just thought I was going to get free coffee." I said, "Well, what do your analytics look like?" I'm honest.
Yeah, exactly.
What do your analytics
rate look like?
Yeah. What do your analytics look like? Well, what's that? Okay, next. Sorry. And the people that approach you specifically to get free stuff, and it was a lot of it was in my previous experience. A lot of it has to do with the gun community, and there's always people trying to get, I write this.
Guns and coffee go together.
Yeah. But always wanting, the new gun bunny was always trying to get, free stuff to put on her Instagram.
Yeah.
And you're just like, no, I'm not. That's not how we're going. But there's still people out there feeding it. There's still people feeding the bear.
Oh yeah. Oh yeah. And it happens in the restaurant community too. And it bugs me. And the reason why it bugs me is what I mentioned earlier, which is all the stuff that goes before the dish gets to you. And then you get somebody who comes in who says, "Oh, I'm an influencer. You better treat me right. If you want this to go to my, 2,000 followers or something like that." Right. That really bugs me. The expectations that people have of social media, and you could call it Facebook, Instagram, Twitter, whatever, that you're entitled to something free that somebody has created just because you have a social media account that everybody else in the world can get. It bugs me to the point of where I get called out every once in a while because I post stuff all the time. I mean, you've seen it on whether it's Instagram or Facebook or whatever. I post stuff all the time. There's a minimum of one Instagram post a day. There, on a couple of Facebook groups, I post a bunch of stuff during the day if I happen to go someplace. And people are like, "Oh, are you getting paid for this?" No, I'm not. I'm paying my bills. I'm tipping the staff. Because if I'm there, first of all, I'm not one of those people. I don't go in and tell people, oh, I've got a big social media account, you better treat me right. I'm just not that kind of person. I will go in, I will order, I will be nice, I will pay my bill, I will tip people. And that's the way it should be. That's the way it should be. It's the entitlement factor, which you mentioned, and what I've seen, and it runs rampant in the restaurant industry, I think, of people who just either don't understand why that's wrong, or just are okay with the fact that it's wrong and just want free stuff.
Yeah.
That just bugs the hell out of me.
Yeah. I was like, well, I guess I've made it to another level of my business now that people are coming out and asking for free coffee so they can put it on their Instagram account. So,
there's some things that I'm okay with. So I get messages. I probably get 2 or 3 messages a day of, hey, would you, we'll send you a product. If you like it, would you post about it? If you like it and you post about it, we'll give you something. It's either monetary compensation or some other things, but be transparent about it. If I post something like that, first of all, I have to like it, or otherwise I'm not going to post it. And then it's got to be marked.
Yeah.
Paid sponsorship with, sponsored by, hashtag sponsored, something like that. There's a bunch of Facebook groups that accept sponsorships, but they don't identify that stuff.
Yeah.
So you can't trust that. And so you look at posts and you look at reviews, and the thing that's always in the back of your mind is, well, were you paid for that? One, did you pay for that? Meaning, did you go somewhere and it was given to you for free? Or 2, was it something that you were otherwise compensated for? And that's fine. I'm not begrudging anybody making money. We're all in the business to make money, right? But just be transparent about it. That I want to see that level in the people I deal with.
So while we're wrapping up here, we've got a few minutes left. Let's talk about, the hot topic. It's the.
Could you move your picture a little away from me? Just yeah.
Yeah. We're social distancing.
Social distancing, yeah.
And what we're doing national and on a world level to combat the coronavirus, right?
And I think a lot of people are. I am no doctor. I'm just a person, right? And I'm a person who's sitting in my house right now and haven't left my house for a couple days. I did, a bunch of shopping. I didn't hoard anything, but I did a bunch of shopping and stuff. But as of an hour ago, because that was right before we started the podcast, Harris County orders all bars and clubs to close for 15 days, restaurants to suspend dining in. I'm just reading the headline. There's a reason for that, and there's pros and cons to that. The pros are you stop what is community spread. And people say, oh, well, it's just like the flu, and if you're old, you're not going to die. Well, a 2% mortality rate on 100 million people is 2 million people. So the flip side is all of those workers, and of course, all of this, the restaurant staffs, all of the bar staffs, all of those people are going to be out of a job for that period of time. So this says 15 days, but who knows if it's 15 days or if it's 30 days or 2 months or whatever it is. So, you have to, there's got to be a balance, but I think there's this media hysteria that's just this echo chamber, right? That just gets driven and driven and driven. And this fear versus personal responsibility is one thing. And 2, just common sense, don't go and gather in groups. Just because somebody's not sick doesn't mean they're not. Doesn't mean
not sick today. They're still contagious. Yeah,
exactly.
They're saying it's 4 days before symptoms show up, and they're already contagious. So it's definitely
and so it's a huge issue. I think I'll position this as saying I think the closing the restaurants for dine-in was important. I think that's going to make a difference. Again, I'm not a doctor. I'm not educated on this, but you have to imagine by limiting the grouping of people together, the community spread will lessen. Houston didn't cancel the rodeo on a whim. It's never been canceled before. It is a huge moneymaker, not only for the city, but for the kids that are all involved with the rodeo. Um, that's not something to be taken lightly. These things aren't being taken lightly, and people should treat it with that respect and not say, oh, well, I'm going to go, I just want to go support local restaurants, which I'm all for, and go dine in someplace with a group of friends. Well, just don't do that. Do the smarter thing. Get takeout, get delivery. And the three things that I've been hearing, and I think they're really good ideas: takeout, delivery, which almost everybody is now providing, which is great because it helps keep their staffs employed and still revenue coming in for the restaurant so they don't have to close. And then the third one is get gift cards now to use later, because those restaurants can utilize that as money now to be used later. So those are the three things that I would say is be smart about it.
Yeah.
Because this is not going away anytime soon.
Yeah. I've got a buddy.
It's going to get worse before it gets better.
Yeah. I've got a buddy I talked to today, and he's just north of Boston, and they've shut everything down, and it's Patty. Tomorrow's one of the biggest money makers for that area, and they're everything's closed, but they've issued even for restaurants, I believe he said, that didn't have takeout or delivery licenses, because that's a thing there in Mass. They've issued a temporary takeout and delivery license to all these restaurants. That way they can at least keep on putting out items and keep on putting out food. And that's so important. And the gift cards is a fantastic idea. Yeah. And if you can order stuff online, if you can do that with minimum exposure and curbside service.
I mean, the biggest trick there is to get it from the restaurant itself. So I know you can go like H-E-B, and there's all sorts of like gift cards and things like that. But if you get it from the restaurant itself, it gives them the cash directly, right? Or the revenue directly. So when you place a takeout order, when you place a delivery order, say, hey, could you tack on a $20 gift card or a $100 gift card to be used later? There's some restaurants that are actually doing that as a promotion. There's a couple here in the Woodlands I saw that if you bought $25 worth or $40 worth of food, you got a $20 gift card to be used later at your next dine-in experience.
Yeah, so come back after this.
Once all this is done, come back and use the gift card. Yeah.
And that was Rudinaire, is that how you say it?
I think Rodinare. Yeah, it's Rodinare. I think they're doing it, and I think a couple others are doing it as well.
That's awesome. And I know, so on Roasters Marketplace, we just we sent out an email this afternoon, one, to remind everybody to watch tonight, and two, any purchases of basically 2 bags of coffee or more you get free shipping. So any $25 or more, you're going to get free shipping automatically with anything. And because we've got 17 different roasters all over the country, and they're all small batch. Either they're hobby roasters or that's their full-time job and they're only roasting. And it's a big deal to the small businesses like I run and that my roasters run, to just have that income coming in. So work, buy local, support small businesses, order your takeout, order your delivery. Don't go dining in someplace. Don't be that guy.
Don't be that guy.
Don't be that guy. Don't be.
My neighborhood hosted a yoga group at the local park today, and I'm like, so a bunch of you just got together to go do yoga in a park? I mean, I don't know.
And the pollen's got to be worse than the coronavirus at that point. We've been staying in just because of the pollen, and that pollen gets your everything aggravated, and your mucous membrane more aggravated, then you're more likely to catch something. So it's just stay in, people. Just if you don't have to get out, don't get out.
Yeah.
If you don't have to take the whole family to H-E-B, don't take the whole family to H-E-B. One of you go.
H-E-B is they actually do free curbside now. They just announced. So yeah, we're actually picking up some stuff tomorrow. We've got an order in for tomorrow.
They've done a fantastic job. Mattress Mac got on the news yesterday, and so we're okay. We're okay in Houston. Mattress Mac and H-E-B are on it. We'll be fine. Anthony, I really appreciate you coming on the show tonight and talking to us. Thanks for hitting up these very important topics that needed to be addressed, and thanks for giving me the pointers when we've talked in the past, and look forward to bringing you on again as a guest in the future. and us actually getting into. I want to do a debate one of these days. I want to get 4 or 5 of us on here, and we can debate about barbecue or whether they should put beans in chili.
I can debate things all. No, beans don't belong in chili.
See, you're on my team.
There's no debate.
You're on my team. It's going to have to be hard to find somebody. I might have to look up north to find somebody that wants beans in their chili. But I appreciate it, man. You have a great night. Once all this blows over, we're going to have to get together for some barbecue.
Yeah, we'll do it.
All right. Thank you, sir. Thanks for joining us, everybody. Y'all have a great night. Check us out on roastersmarketplace.com. Thanks for watching the show. We'll see you later.